Today, Baba tells us not to gossip, not to engage in wasteful conversations. These days, gossip is not only limited to wasteful conversations with people, but this is a world of waste, I think. And all around there is always sound and sights, and especially with the phone, there's so much that's coming to you. And I was especially very interested in what Baba said about some children listening to Baba's knowledge every day, but not imbibing it, because their buddhi has become patthar buddhi, stone intellect. And why has it become stone intellect? Because if we keep listening to the opinions and the matters of the world, what does it do to our buddhi? It makes it a stone intellect. And you see that Baba always tells us that the buddhi is purified by truth and true knowledge and yoga with Baba. Now, if that is so, then the opposite is always true. That when there is yoga with impure souls, or we are constantly churning the falsehood of the world with our buddhi, then that buddhi will become a stone intellect also. That buddhi will also start turning into a stone intellect. So just like you see, Baba says that the buddhi gets purified with true knowledge and true yoga. So of course it gets tainted with false knowledge and false yoga. And you see that only Baba tells us the truth, and everybody tells us what is false. And I was just thinking today, you say that Baba is always telling us the truth, and when that truth enters our buddhi, then we are able to discern and decide in a way which is profitable for us. And the buddhi has these capacities of discernment and decision making, and the buddhi also has intuition. The buddhi has the capacity to focus or concentrate. And when that buddhi becomes tainted by the falsehood of the world, then what happens? All your discernment, your decision making is turning against you. So whenever based on that buddhi you're taking decisions or discerning things based on that buddhi, then you are getting into trouble. I will give you a very simple example. You see that there is this, in the world, when you listen to stuff and when you hear stuff, or when you are engaging in viewing and hearing the things, creations of the old world, then there was this one sister, she told me that ever since I was a child, my parents told me that all elders are right and good people. And she said that I grew up with this idea that every person who is the same age as my father is like my father. And I grew up with that idea, and I never tried to even see whether I never even tried to discern based on the behavior of the person whether that person is really like my father or not. And I was duped and cheated and physically harassed by a person who was my father's age when I was 20. And she said that left me very scarred. And today I have trust issues and I cannot connect with anybody. I feel that I'm very guarded and I have trust issues with the best of people these days. So I'm just giving you an example of how, when you are living in this world which is false. So Baba tells us that in the body there is a soul sitting, and the quality of the soul has got nothing to do with the parameters of the body. And if you're body conscious, you will always be deceived by the context of the body. Yes, this is educated, this person is elderly, this person is young. So you see, in the world, you are always listening to stuff, or you're watching stuff or talking to people, and then they will start telling you people of this religion are bad and that religion are good, and then women are always foolish and men are intelligent, and then children are always these days children don't need to be taken seriously, and all the elderly people need to be taken seriously. So these are some of the things that you start picking on, and you, before you know it, your discernment, your decision making is very influenced by all this parmat that you are receiving in the old world. And we are not even aware that whatever we are seeing and listening, and it's always a character in the context of a body, and then you start associating that character with that religion, that body, that gender and stuff, or that nationality, and you start thinking like, Europeans are like this, Indians are like this, Gujaratis are like this, Sindhis are like this. But all that is parmat, all that is manushyamat. And then you see, even about being loveful or being sweet, or so Baba gives us true definitions. In the world, people will say, you should be loveful to everybody. Yes, you should be loveful, but first detachment and then love. Loveful doesn't mean that you leave your buddhi and everything outside the door and then you enter into love. That's not how you become loveful. So Baba is always telling us tweaking our buddhi or refining our buddhi and giving it the discernment and decision making power that it needs. And Baba is filling it with knowledge and yoga power. But you see that if I'm allowing my buddhi to absorb into Baba for some time, and then I unplug it from there, and then I allow it to absorb into matters of the world and listening and seeing of the world, then you see that whole power, that whole purity of the buddhi is compromised. And this is why Baba says, stay away from gossip. Now you see, there is this beautiful thing about gossip, that everybody is usually when you gossip, it is criticism camouflaged as entertainment. So gossip always takes this form that you are criticizing somebody, and then that is packaged so well that it feels like harmless entertainment. But then if you are engaging in gossip, now you see many people, when they gossip, they will try to tell you that it's coming from a place of very good intention. Yes, and I remember there was this one Mata, she came to the center and she talked about her daughter in law for half an hour. And not one good thing she spoke about her daughter in law. And then at the end of the conversation, she told me that, you see, Didi, I'm only sharing this because I'm her well wisher and I want her to do well, and this is why I'm sharing this, so that you send her good vibrations. So just think about it. And I told her, but you have not shared anything with me which sounds like you are her well wisher. Because if you are criticizing her so much, how do you think that based on that criticism you will draw good wishes from me to her? And giving good wishes, when you want me to give her good wishes, that's my duty, that's my nature. So I will give good wishes. Why did you give me this half an hour of critical thinking about her because you want good wishes from me? So you see that gossip is always criticism camouflaged as something coming from a very noble place and coming from good intentions, but that is not. And whenever you are criticizing somebody, you are paying attention to their weaknesses, which is against Srimad. And Baba tells us that there is nobody who doesn't have weaknesses. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses. But it's not our duty to look at somebody's weakness. And we just have to look at everybody's virtues and strengths and goodness. And so, whenever you're gossiping, you are actually doing the opposite of what Baba is saying. And Baba in the Murli very categorically says that you must not criticize anybody. Ninda mat karo. And then when you're gossiping, what are you doing? You are actually criticizing somebody. So Baba says that when you engage in this kind of a conversation or hearing or seeing, it's all tainting your buddhi. And when your buddhi gets tainted, then you cannot discern and decide in a manner that will help you create good karma. Your discernment and decision making will be such that based on that, when you do action, that will be bad karma. So Baba warns us about this gossip and this, I don't think only gossip, but even the other stuff that we do, absorbing our buddhi in viewing and listening to stuff that's based on human dictates or human awareness, which is very body conscious, we should absolutely refrain from that, because otherwise our buddhi will not turn into a golden vessel. And Baba says that your duty is to finish your seva and then stay in the intoxication of Baba's remembrance. And I think it's very important that Brahmins adopted this lifestyle where there is just yad and seva and no third thing. So whenever we finish seva, we have to sit in Baba's remembrance and absorb light and might and stay in our intoxication. So this is something that Baba is warning us against. And second thing Baba tells us is that every soul creates sanskars, and nobody should think that soul is nirlep and there is no what do you say, the soul doesn't get tainted by the actions. It does. So of course the soul changes from a pure to an impure soul. So whatever karma we are doing, the residue of that karma remains with the soul. Now there is a very simple law of sanskar, and the law of sanskar is whatever you do repeatedly becomes your sanskar. And there are four kinds of sanskars. There are sanskars of thoughts, there are sanskars of feelings, there are sanskars of attitudes, and there are sanskars of actions. So we must be very wary of whatever we are doing repeatedly, because once you know anything that, let's say a thought, let's say a fear-based thought, if you're creating it, even if it is being created under the influence of some circumstance, it is still your thought, your creation. And when you do that repeatedly, suppose a situation persists for 6 months, where there is the probability of you creating a fear-based thought, still you have to understand that you are the master of your mind and your thought is your creation. And even if the situation permits you to create fear-based thoughts, you have to refrain from it by understanding your power of choice as a soul. And if you allow the situation to affect you, and if you start creating these fear-based thoughts, then what will happen is it will become your sanskar. And then even when the situation is long gone, you will live with this sanskar. And I remember, there was this one brother, he told me that one day when I was returning from office, I had a spat with one fellow on the road, and we entered into an argument over parking. And then it was 10 in the night, and when I started moving towards my apartment, this fellow was standing below my building and just watching me go. And then when I reached my apartment and I looked down from the balcony, he was still standing. And it was 10 in the night, and I started having these thoughts that what if this person continues to watch over every activity in my house, and I have a sister and I have parents who are elderly, so how would that pan out? And that night I couldn't sleep. And he said, that is a one-day incident. But sister, I thought so much about it. I started thinking that, what if this person comes back today? And then I came back at 7 in the evening the next day from office. And then I kept thinking about whether that person is coming back. And that person never returned. But I kept thinking about this incident for about a month. And after that month, I couldn't get rid of that pattern of thinking. And now every little thing gives me anxiety, and I start thinking out of fear in every situation. Now, why I'm sharing this with you is that Baba has given us two very important things about two very important things of knowledge about our inner world. I am the master of my mind, and my thoughts are my creation. My thoughts need not be dependent on the situation that I am in. And I have to create my thoughts in alignment with my aim about what I want to become. I don't have to think about what is and base my thinking on that, but I have to think in line with what I want to become. And second piece of knowledge is, if you keep thinking in a certain manner, that thought will become your pattern. If you start creating feelings, so let's say you see somebody is not behaving well with you, and you start creating feelings of sorrow, feelings of disappointment, or feelings of hurt, and if you keep doing that, then that hurt, that disappointment, or that sorrow will become your sanskar. And I have seen, I have seen there was this one lady, and without any reason, she would just, her tears would start coming from her eyes, and her eyes would well up. Why? Because there's so much of pent up hurt in the heart. Now, where does that hurt come from? So, you have created that sanskar of creating feelings of sorrow and hurt and disappointment by thinking over it and feeling in the same way, creating those feelings in over and over again. So let's say even if somebody is not good to you, or somebody did not reciprocate well with you in a relationship, you have to take ownership of keeping your feelings pure and powerful. And if you allow that one person to always play on your mind, and you start creating feelings of sorrow and loss and hurt and disappointment, then you will start crying in the most happy places, because now that feeling is your sanskar. And even if you are in a place where there's no reason to feel sorrow, you will always feel sorrow based on your sanskar, and you can cry at the drop of your hat. So Baba tells us that you have to take ownership of what thought you create, what feeling you create, or even about the attitude you hold. So you see, even if you see somebody's behavior all the time, and you see that this person has a weakness, or they are inefficient in some way, or they don't know some things, even if you're saying all that, don't create the thought that this person, don't create that attitude that this is a not worthy person, or this person is not very useful, or this person doesn't have any value, because you are seeing the weakness of that person always. So you have to keep your attitude pure. So, and you see that most people in the world today have lost the attitude of respect, because you look at everybody's weakness and you create this attitude of disrespect, of this attitude where you view everybody as unworthy based on whatever you have observed about them. And then what happens is, uh, seeing somebody as unworthy becomes your sanskar. And then even if there is somebody who is very worthy, you are not able to maintain that constant attitude of respect for that person. Have you seen that one day you meet somebody and then you hold them in high esteem, but then second third day onwards, when you have continuous association with them, you are not able to keep up that respectful attitude. Why? Because your attitude is basically disrespectful based on this sanskar that you have created by looking at the weakness of everybody. So this is why Baba tells us that always whenever you are in interaction with someone, hold that attitude that this is a brother soul, and come what may, this is God's child. Keep the divine between you and them, and do not create an attitude of disrespect, or thinking about them as unworthy based on what they do or who they are, but create this attitude that by virtue of being God's child, this person is worthy and respectable. And when you uphold that, your attitude will stay full of respect and love for everybody. So it's very important. And you see about actions also, whether it is the habit of food and drink, or whether it's the habit of getting up and sleeping, don't allow circumstances to dictate your timetable and how you manage your lifestyle. Always keep Shrimat in the forefront, and wake up and sleep at the time Baba asks us to, or eat what Baba asks you to, or eat in a manner or cook in a manner that Baba has allowed us to. Because these things are very important. Once you allow conditions and circumstances to dictate, your lifestyle and your choices based on lifestyle, then it becomes very tricky, because you create habits in one scenario and then the scenario changes, and that habit becomes a very big obstacle for you in the new scenario. For example, you see that when there was COVID time and there was a lockdown, then people started creating habits of getting up late and not dressing up, not taking care of their physical hygiene also. So when people started doing that, then they created habits. And I know of many people who have not been able to overcome those habits even when the lockdown is over and the situation has changed drastically. So this is why Baba says that don't allow any situation or circumstance to mess with your choices of time and lifestyle and how you distribute the activities of the day or how you eat and drink, because if you did that, then that would become a sanskar. So making these choices of thought, feeling, attitude and action based on Shrimat and not based on circumstances is very important, because circumstances will change, but the habits that you create in those circumstances won't change. They will stay with you, and those sanskars will be the basis of your sansar also. So do you understand that our collective sanskars, so whatever sanskars I have, if I have 20 sanskars, 30 sanskars, that group of sanskars is my personality, and that personality is my vibration that I radiate into the world, and that is the basis of whatever I get back from the universe. So if my vibration is not right, then how can I ever think of, getting back good things from the world? So Baba says, be very careful about the sanskars you create. And then today Baba also talks about the accuracy of drama. And you see, in a body conscious world, we have developed these habits of labeling events that have passed. Yes, so whatever has passed. So let me give you a little, a little note here, that when Baba says use the knowledge of drama, it is usually for events in the past. So drama means past is past. You don't use the knowledge of drama for the future. For the future, you use the knowledge of karma. Yes, so Baba has given us the knowledge of karma, and Baba is giving us Shrimat, and Baba says that you create your future based on basing your actions on Shrimat. But when it comes to the past, something that is already done and over, you use the knowledge of drama there and put a full stop. And this is very important, because in the Ravan Rajya, in the body conscious world, we have this tendency of labeling and analyzing the scene that has already happened. Yes. Now in English we say don't cry over spilt milk. But crying over spilt milk is a sanskar. And not only crying, but even analyzing who spilled the milk, whose mistake was it, who can I blame for it, or if this had not happened like this, then the milk wouldn't be spilled. But Baba says that all these exercises of the mind that you have conditioned yourself into are wasteful. And whenever some scene of the drama has already happened, put a full stop and know that this always happens like this. And I will give you a very interesting example. There is a Mata who called me some days back, and she told me that my husband had a certain disease, and we were asked to take a decision whether to go for surgery or not. And then we took a decision to go for surgery, and it was a risk taking surgery. It was a risk taking on our part, and we already knew that doing the surgery could end up in his death. But then we were told that you have to take that decision on your own. So we went ahead with the surgery, and he died in that process. So when he died, then I always have this thought recurringly, would he have survived if we had not taken that decision to undergo the surgery? And that thought is eating me up. And she said, I have been living with this dilemma for 6 months now, and I can't get over it. So you see that analyzing the past and whether it was good or bad or right or wrong, or could it have happened differently, is a very big problem. So Baba says, use the knowledge of drama. Whatever has happened had to happen like that, and it couldn't have been changed by anything that you would have ever done. So if you hold this one knowledge in your awareness always, you will be free from all the trauma that you self-inflict by thinking unnecessarily on events of the past. Okay, Om Shanti.